Okay. This is the Starburst card. Here's the sample of what I did. We're using some old Stampin' Up papers. Today I'm going to use the Kaisercraft Paisley Days paper pad. So the first thing we're going to do is take a bunch of different pattern papers. On my sample, I used 6 patterns. On the new one, I'm going to use 7, but you can use as many or as little patterns as you want. Basically, you're going to cut a few rectangles. Here's a couple that I cut already. They're 4.5 by 1.5. And that's going to be, if you cut 2 of these, that will give you 4. What we're going to do is cut on the diagonal. So I'm going to take this here and line up the diagonals where the cutting blade is going to go. And then I'm going to cut it. So now you have 2 triangles basically. So basically you're going to do that for a bunch of different ones until you get as many as you need. I think I have I think I did 7 different ones. It depends on how much space you want between your patterns. So this is what mine looks like when it's all cut. So it's, as you can see, it's a mess. So what I started doing, let me just put some of these aside. What you're going to do is you're going to cut a card face that is 3 3/4 times 5 inches. That's what this one is. Okay, and then you're going to take your couple of long pieces that you did. I cut some out of these. So what I'm going to do is take the long ones and line them up on the edges. So these 2 I'm going to line up this way. So it's going to look like this. And then I'm going to take my other 2 long ones and line them up here. And then I'm going to progressively go around and see how much space I want, just so I can lay it out ahead of time and see what I think it's going to look like. And this one I'm going to put over here. And then I'm going to put one here. Then I'm going to put another one here. And it doesn't have to be perfectly lined up when you first lay it out, just so you get a sense of how it's going to look. And then I'm going to take a couple of these little paisley patterns here. And then I'm going to take these little floral patterns. And then in the middle, left space, I'm going to put these 2 patterns. So as you can see, it's going to look a little bit like that. So what I'm going to do now is just pull aside the ones that I'm not going to be gluing down right now. And I'm going to take my tape runner. Now I would say to use a repositionable or tape or some glue or anything that you can maneuver it around, because you have to play with it to get it to be the spacing that you want in between the patterns. So I'm going to just glue this down. And when I put my tape runner on it, I'm going from the middle just to the tip, because the tip is the part that you really want to stick. And you don't want to stick it too much. I mean, so I'm going to leave like 2/3 of it glued down and the rest of it open, because that part you're going to cut off later. Okay, then I'm going to put this one here. And then this one. So that one looks like that so far. Okay, I'm just going to keep gluing them until I get them. I think I'll put this one over here. I'll put this one over here. Now you can lower, it doesn't have to be, they don't have to meet in the middle, because you're going to put a focal element there that's going to cover them up. So you may not want them to meet anyway because you want to get a little bit more space in between them. But again, this tape that I'm putting on, I can move around. So if I don't like the way it's looking, I can just pull it up and reposition it. Dropped one. Okay, so now let me take this one here. And see how it's looking like. Some of it looks like they're bigger than others. I may want to adjust that, but I have to decide how it's going to look first before I decide to do that. I may decide that it doesn't have to look perfect. It might look fine just the way it is. Or I might only have to adjust one or two of them. Okay, now it looks like I want to maybe move this one around a little bit, this one around a little bit. And I have a circular element that I cut out. This actually happens to come in the 6x6 paper pad. This is by Kaisercraft. Which I really love about them is that they have die cuts with the papers. So I just use this little sentiment and then I die cut a circle. You can use a punch, whatever you happen to have, because I'm just using what I have here. Obviously, since we're all stuck inside with the coronavirus, you're just going to be using whatever you have on hand. So then this is so I see how it looks now and I'm thinking, not that bad. I'm kind of liking it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my card face and then I'm going to flip it over and start cutting. Now you don't have to be perfect, but because you could always trim it again later. I'll try to get it as close as I can. Make sure that you have things adhered good so that doesn't move, because that happens to me. That happened to me on the one that I just did. That's why I always do one first before I do like a little prototype, before I do my final version of my sample. Also, like I said, I'm not a perfectionist, so things don't have to be perfect for me. But some people might, you know, if you don't like the way it looks, you could always put it into your trimmer and get it exactly right. Like, see, I have little things hanging over here or there. You could always just put it right in your trimmer. And just take a little bit of a sliver off it, and then you got it looking much better. And I'm going to take it. Now the only thing to remember though is that this, we cut this at 3 3/4 by 5 inches. So if you're going to mat it on a piece of cardstock, a different color cardstock, that it might be a little bit off from there, because the cardstock I would mat it on would be 4 inches by 5 1/4. So this is going to go in the center here. Basically, I didn't get that far ahead about thinking about which color I wanted to mount it on. But if you look in the little book that I have, there's a lot of different colors here. And I might decide to mount it on one of these. Let's see. I kind of like that. So whatever piece of cardstock you have, if you have one already picked out, this one, so I'm just going to cut this one. I'm going over here and taking my cutter, and I'm going to cut it at 4 by 5 1/4. That's the standard size mat for a standard size card. Okay, so now I'm matting it on this right here like that. I'm going to put some adhesive on it. And then I just eyeball it. Some people have a hard time doing that, but after a while, it doesn't have to be perfect. Nothing has to be perfect here. Okay, so I'm going to put this on the back. Put it in the middle here. This is another pattern that came out of that little book. And then for here, I am going to grab some Pop Dot and pop it up. Just going to put 2 Pop Dots on here. Please excuse my manicure. As you know, my manicure is looking a little ragged, considering that I've been stuck in the house for about 5 or 6 days now, and I don't think I'll be getting my nails done anytime soon. Okay, here it is. And then it's just a matter of getting a card base. I have a card base right here. And then I'm taking my little Score Pal, which I love this thing. And I'm going to score my card base at 4 1/4. And then use the little bone folder here to fold it. You know what I notice? Sometimes I have a problem with cracking. If it cracks, I fold it over the other side, and it's usually better. Okay, so now this is the card front that's going to go on the front of the card. Then I'm going to put some adhesive on here. And there you go. Now mine is a little busy because I used a lot of patterns. You can decide to cut fewer patterns. Like I said, I'm going to have all the measurements on in the description for the YouTube. I have the measurements written down here. I will put it up there. And then you can always stamp a sentiment in there. But that's your quick and easy Sunburst card. Thanks for watching.